Hey guys, tonight we begin with a gentle question that has followed people across deserts, rivers, and centuries. What is consciousness? Welcome to the Midnight Narrator. Tonight we will move slowly, breath by breath, through the landscapes of awareness. We will trace the question from the first soft stirrings of thought to the crowded, humming networks of modern science. We will listen to what poets, priests, philosophers, and scientists have said. We will hold close the mystery without forcing it, and we'll let the quiet textures of each idea settle around us like dusk. Before we settle in and begin our peaceful journey, take a moment to like this video and subscribe, only if what I share here truly resonates with you. Your support helps me create more of these videos, and if you feel like it, let me know where you're tuning in from and what time it is. It's always fascinating to see the many corners of the world where we connect. Now dim the lights, make yourself comfortable, and let's ease into tonight's journey together as we explore what lies ahead. Chapter 1. The Great Question: What is consciousness? Slow your breath with me for a moment. Inhale softly, exhale, let the room quiet. Picture a still lake at midnight, the surface smooth, reflecting a handful of distant stars. For most of human history, consciousness has been like that lake, an ordinary thing we both take for granted and find impossible to touch. We experience the world each moment, the colour of a sky, the ache that sometimes appears behind our eyes, the warmth of memory, and this living, immediate experiencing is what people mean when they speak of consciousness. But the question we will hold here is deceptively simple. What makes us aware that we exist? It is useful to begin by separating two nearby ideas that are often mixed together. First, being alive, a seed that swells and sprouts, a beetle that moves toward a light, a tree that opens its leaves. These are forms of life. Life involves metabolism, growth, reproduction, and the capacity to respond to the environment. Life is a biological dance, and it does not by itself guarantee the kind of inner presence we call conscious experience. Second, being conscious. Consciousness, in the everyday sense, is the first-person quality of experience. The redness of red, the pang of sorrow, the sense of being. It's the difference between a heart beating in the dark and the reflective realization that there is a heart beating, and that you are the one noticing it. Many living systems react to their surroundings without any hint of this inner theatre. So the first surprise is this: life and consciousness overlap, but they are not the same thing. Across time and cultures, people have tried to describe what consciousness is by pointing to what seems most immediate: awareness itself. Some traditions described consciousness as the deepest ground, a fundamental reality that is simply there. In the warm, slow languages of ancient teachers, consciousness is often not an object, but the field in which objects appear: thoughts, sensations, dreams, memories. In the Upanishads and certain strands of Buddhist teaching, awareness is described as the ever-present witness, a quiet light in which life moves. Indigenous and African spiritual perspectives sometimes present life and awareness as woven together, woven through rituals, songs, and kinship, where the self is not isolated but part of a living web. These accounts do not try to locate consciousness inside parts of the body. They point instead to an openness that allows experience to happen. Other early thinkers approached the problem by separating mind from body. Plato and later dualistic philosophers suggested a distinction between the material and the mental, two different kinds of substance or reality. This view gives us one way to think about consciousness. Perhaps it is something other than the physical stuff we measure with instruments. But there's always been a shadow in this way of thinking, the shadow of paradox. We use our minds, our consciousness, to ask questions about consciousness itself. The instrument and the object are one and the same. It is like trying to use a flashlight to see the flashlight's own bulb. This self-referential nature makes the great question uniquely strange and quietly humbling. Imagine a lighthouse keeper who climbs each night to trim the lamp. He notices the lamp's light, the mechanism that feeds oil to it, the lenses that focus the beam. But he cannot stand outside the lighthouse and observe the lamp from a separate vantage point. So too, our conscious minds study neural tissue and culture and language, yet the most immediate thing, our own interior presence, resists the same kind of external inspection. To bring this nearer to home, consider a simple everyday scene. You're standing near a window watching rain thread down the glass. The sound is a soft, even rhythm. Thoughts appear. A memory of an old house, a name you must remember in the morning. Sensations rise and fall, the touch of a blanket, a small ache in your wrist. All of these appear to you. There is an unspoken sense that someone is being given these experiences, that someone feels solid, an observer, a center. But when you try to find that center to point and say, there it is, it slips. You find images, processes, memories, and a narrative voice, but no clearly bounded thing that explains the raw fact of being aware. That slipperiness is one reason the question persists, and why it feels at once intimate and cosmic. We can also turn to stories that gently illuminate the problem. There is a simple tale told in many forms, the tale of the mirror and the monk. A monk sits before a small pool watching his reflection. He grows curious. Is the reflection the monk, or is the reflection only an image? He studies the features, the beard, the way light sits on his brow, and he learns to distinguish between the mirror and that which looks into it. Over time, the monk realizes the mirror can never explain the fact that there is looking. The mirror can show the form, but it cannot explain the sense of witnessing. This is not a dismissal of looking closely at the mirror. It is an invitation to notice the deep difference between appearance and the fact that something is appearing. Tonight, as we begin, we will learn to hold both, to be careful observers and humble witnesses. Ancient inquiry moved inwards and outwards. Myth and ritual tried to speak of the experience directly. Philosophical inquiry tried to build models and arguments. Poetry tried to describe the felt quality of things. In every case, people return to one stubborn observation. Consciousness feels private, uniquely and irreducibly first person. Scientists can map activity and identify patterns that correlate with certain experiences, but the private glare of experience, the what it's like, of red, of grief, of a loved voice, remains stubbornly singular. And so we arrive at our first curiosity trigger, a small puzzle that will guide us deeper into the documentary. If consciousness is everything we experience, why can't we locate it anywhere in the brain? This is not a rhetorical trap. It is a doorway. It invites us to look at the ways humans have searched for the answer. Are we to find consciousness as we find bones in the earth, or will it require a different kind of discovery? One that is less about location and more about relationship. Before we move forward, notice how your body is resting in the chair or bed. Feel the gentle rise and fall of breath. Let the thought of the question settle like a feather on the surface of the lake we imagined earlier. There is no need to resolve it now. Tonight we are here to be with the question, to let it open us rather than close us. Throughout later chapters, we will circle back to this scene many times. We will listen to the science that searches for neural signatures and the philosophers who name the hard problem. We will peek into mystical descriptions and exciting modern conjectures about the universe itself, and we will keep returning, like the monk in the mirror, to the immediate fact of awareness, the quiet presence that, for a moment, is simply here with us. To keep your attention gentle and steady over the hour ahead, I will occasionally offer small anchors, a short, evocative story, a practical image to visualize, a quiet question to hold in your mind as we move through the night. These anchors help shape the feeling of continuity, like lamplights guiding a slow walk through a long garden. Tonight, the first anchor is this. Imagine a small stone dropped into the lake at midnight. The ripples expand, concentric and calming. Each ripple is a thought, a sensation, a memory. The lake surfaced, the field of awareness, is what allows these ripples to appear and spread. Our job, in a sense, is to watch the ripples without clinging to them and to notice the presence that allows them to be seen. As this chapter closes, keep that image, the lake, the ripples, warm and present. In the next chapter, we will move closer to the shore and look at the physical world that produces ripples, the brain. We will learn what neuroscience has mapped so far: neurons and synapses, patterns of firing, networks that glow with activity, and we will examine what these discoveries explain and what they leave untouched. We will ask whether locating certain patterns takes us all the way to the feeling of being. For now, rest with the question. Let it be a companion rather than a problem to solve. In the soft hush of this hour, simply notice. You're awake with awareness itself. That noticing is both fragile and profound, ordinary and utterly sacred. Slow your breath once more. Inhale softly. Exhale. Let your attention drift from the lake we left behind and imagine now a different landscape. A vast ancient forest. Each tree is a cell, each branch a filament of connection. Light moves through the leaves, patterns shift, and somewhere deep within this living wood, tiny electrical storms bloom and fade. This is the forest of the brain. In this chapter, we will walk its shaded paths with gentle curiosity, learning what neuroscience has discovered about awareness, and where the map still shows only ocean. Chapter 2. The Science of Awareness. What happens in the brain? When we speak of the brain, we speak of the body's most intricate organ, a soft folded mass of tissue about the size of 2 clenched fists, containing roughly 80 to 100 billion neurons, each one a cell capable of electrical signaling. These neurons speak to one another across tiny gaps called synapses, releasing chemical messengers that make other neurons more or less likely to fire. The basic electrical pulse that travels along a neuron is called an action potential, a brief, all-or-nothing spike of voltage, and it is through the concert of these spikes that information moves. But numbers and pulses are only the beginning. The brain organizes itself into networks and regions, some geared towards sensing the world, some toward moving the body, some toward remembering, some toward planning. Sensory organs send patterns of stimulation. Light becomes patterns of activity in the visual cortex. Pressure on the skin becomes signals in somatosensory areas. Sound becomes orchestrated motion in the auditory cortex. At each stage, the brain transforms incoming data, highlights certain features, downplays others, and builds a model, a best guess of what's out there. It helps to think of the brain not as a passive mirror that reports reality, but as an active artist, a predictive, constructive organ that constantly anticipates incoming sensory input and corrects the anticipations when needed. In modern neuroscience, this idea is often framed as predictive processing or Bayesian inference. The brain as a hypothesis-testing machine. It attempts to minimize the gap between what it predicts and what the senses deliver. Perception, then, is as much about internal expectation as it is about outside stimulation. From this view, the world we experience is a carefully constructed narrative stitched from prediction and correction. So where does consciousness fit into this humming machinery? Neuroscientists have been hunting for what are called neural correlates of consciousness, NCCS. These are patterns of brain activity that reliably change when conscious experience begins or ends. For instance, when someone shifts from being awake to falling into deep sleep, or when an image suddenly becomes visible to them. The hope is to find signatures, Perhaps a certain pattern of synchronized firing across distant brain regions, a specific rhythm of electrical oscillation, or the operation of a central hub that integrates information. Several findings have been influential. For one, the thalamus and the cortex, the deep relay centers and the outer folded cortex of the brain, seem to be important partners for conscious states. The thalamus relays and coordinates a lot of sensory information. When thalamic activity diminishes, consciousness can fade. The cortex, especially the frontally and parietally connected areas, lights up during wakeful, reportable experience. Other observations emphasize large-scale integration. It's not enough for a single region to be active. Awareness seems to involve widespread, synchronized activity across networks that allow information to be shared and used globally. Another line of study comes from cases where consciousness and sensory processing diverge. Consider blind sight. Some individuals with damage to the primary visual cortex are clinically blind in parts of their visual field, yet they can guess the presence, location, or movement of objects in that blind region at above chance levels without any conscious visual sensation. Or think of split brain patients whose corpus callosum, the big bridge between the two hemispheres, has been severed. Each hemisphere can, in some experiments, hold independent information and act on it, revealing something surprising about how unified our inner life appears to be despite distributed processing. Clinical cases also teach us about memory, identity, and experience. When Henry Molaison, known to science as HM, had parts of his medial temporal lobes removed to cure epilepsy, he lost the ability to form new episodic memories while retaining much else of his personality. He could learn new skills without remembering having learned them. These observations show that different faculties we associate with being a person can be dissociated and located to various circuits, even as the felt continuity of self remains compelling. Yet while neuroscience has mapped correlations and dissected the mechanics, a persistent gap remains. We can point to patterns of activity that track with reports of seeing, hearing, feeling. We can manipulate circuits and change reports of experience. But this still leaves us with a crucial question. Why should any pattern of matter and energy be accompanied by an inner life? Why does a synchronized wave of neurons feel like something from the inside? This is sometimes expressed as the explanatory gap, the distance between objective description and subjective experience. Scientific models explain functions, attention, memory, behavior. They explain why a certain circuit's operation improves the detection of a faint sound, or why specific pathways are essential for recognizing faces. But they do not on their own tell us what it feels like to hear that faint sound or to recognize that face. Neuroscience also helps us understand the construction of the self. The sense of an enduring unified I is not given by a single center in the brain. Instead, it seems to be a narrative stitched together from many modules. The body sense that locates you in space, memory systems that carry past and future, emotional centers that color significance, and executive circuits that weave decisions into a story. The default mode network, a set of brain regions that become active when the mind is at rest and self-reflective, is often associated with this autobiographical, self-referential processing. When its activity is altered, people report changes in the sense of self. Meditation practices, tranquilizers, psychedelics, or traumatic events can temporarily loosen that narrative, revealing that what we call self is malleable, distributed, and partly constructed. Let us pause for a soft story that illustrates one of neuroscience's humbling lessons. There is a recorded clinical vignette of a man who, after a stroke, could not see color. He perceived the world in grey tones, yet he could identify ripe fruit by touch and smell, and he still felt delight at the warmth of sunlight. His world's texture had changed, but his inner life, the pattern of joys, recollections and desires, remained. This shows that the elements of experience can shift without erasing the whole. Consciousness is not a monolith, but a mosaic of experiences, each with its own dependence on brain circuits. Another gentle anchor: imagine an orchestra in which different sections, strings, winds, percussion, play with slight autonomy. The conductor's role is not to be the sound itself, but to coordinate. Some neuroscientists liken consciousness to that coordinated performance. The unified music that emerges when certain brain regions play in synchrony, guided by loops that permit information to be globally available. But an orchestra metaphor still leaves us asking, why is there music rather than mere motion? This brings us to a sobering, calming truth. Neuroscience is exceptionally good at telling us the how of many cognitive processes, how signals flow, how decisions form, how attention shifts. It has given us concrete tools: brain imaging that traces activity, electrophysiology that logs spikes, stimulation that can evoke sensations or change moods. Yet the why of subjective feeling, the hard inequality, remains a stubbornly private domain that is not easily reduced to firings and chemical gradients. There are also methodological reasons for the difficulty. Much of science relies on public, repeatable measures, signals, behaviours, neural activity collected across many people. Subjective experience, by its nature, resists direct public measurement. Researchers rely on behavioural reports, spoken words, button presses, and these reports are themselves filtered through language and memory. When someone says, "I saw a red square," scientists infer neural events that correlate with that report. But the report is always one step removed from the raw feeling itself. Technology helps bridge this divide. Sophisticated imaging methods can now measure brain activity with finer temporal and spatial precision. Machine learning can tease subtle patterns from large data sets, predicting certain subjective reports from neural signatures with better-than-chance accuracy. Yet prediction is not explanation. The map improves, but the territory's inner glow is not fully illuminated. And there are philosophical nudges too. Many scientists now accept that consciousness can be studied empirically, that it's not a mystical property beyond experiment. But others caution humility. Models could be incomplete, and the possibility remains that we are missing crucial conceptual tools. Perhaps our current vocabulary, neurons, networks, signals, is like trying to describe electricity before understanding fields. Perhaps new primitives are needed. Before we close this chapter, one more quiet image. Picture the brain's activity as constellations traced across the night. Some stars cluster into familiar shapes. A few clusters flash in a pattern that, consistently, coincides with a moment of awareness. We can draw lines among the stars and name them. We can chart their motion. But the feeling of wonder we get from looking up, the inner sense of awe, is not something the constellations hand to us. It appears alongside our act of looking. Now we arrive at the curiosity trigger that will carry this gentle tension forward. If our thoughts and emotions are just brain signals, then who or what is the observer watching them? This question will accompany us into the next chapters as we explore deeper puzzles, the hard problem, philosophical perspectives, and speculative territories where consciousness and cosmology brush lightly against one another. Before we go, rest in the thought that modern science gives us powerful, beautiful maps of the brain's processes and that these maps both illuminate and remind us of the depth of the mystery. Allow that reminder to be soothing, not alarming. There is a quiet magic in being the kind of creature that can ask about itself. Take a slow breath in and out. Let the forest of neurons recede gently, and keep the sensation of curiosity like a warm pebble in your palm. When you are ready, we will follow that pebble toward one of philosophy's oldest questions. Why should any pattern of matter be accompanied by inner life at all? Slow your breath, in and out. Let the world settle around you like a soft blanket. Keep the image of the lake and the forest with you, small, steady places where questions rest. Tonight we will sit with one of the deepest questions people have ever asked. Why is there something it feels like to be you at all? Chapter 3. The hard problem. Why does consciousness exist at all? We have been walking through maps and machines, the brain's wiring, the dance of neurons, the ways different parts of the brain work together. Those maps can tell us a lot about how the mind works, but now we turn to the place where maps grow quiet, the place philosophers call the hard problem. What is the hard problem? Very simply, it is the gap between two kinds of things. On one side are functions, the things the brain does. These are things we can measure, test, and explain. For example, how the brain tells your hand to pull away from a hot stove, how it recognizes a face, how it remembers your friend's name. These are sometimes called the easy problems. They're not truly easy, but they are problems that science can study step by step. On the other side is the raw feel of experience, what it's like inside, what it is like to see bright red, to taste coffee, to feel the warmth of someone's hand. These raw feels are called qualia. They are private. You cannot directly hand your red to another person so they can see it inside their head. The hard problem asks, why do physical processes in the brain lead to these feels at all? To make this clearer, let me tell you a gentle story. Imagine a scientist named Maya who studies colour. She lives in a small sunlit room filled with charts and machines. Maya can describe every wave of light, every cell in the eye, every brain signal that happens when someone looks at a red apple. But she has never seen colour herself. Her world has always been grey. One day, she steps outside and sees red for the first time. The moment she sees it, she knows something new in a way that no chart could show her. The experience of red is more than information. It is a kind of knowing you can only have by having the experience. This story, called Mary's Room, is a thought experiment philosophers use to show why explanation can fall short. You can know everything about colour from the outside, the wavelengths, the cells, the circuits, and still not have the inner feeling until you see it. Another thought experiment is the idea of a philosophical zombie. This is a being that looks and acts exactly like you. It talks, it cries, it solves problems, but inwardly it has no felt life, nothing it is like to be that being. It behaves as if it had feelings, but there is no inner glow. The zombie is imaginary, but it helps point to the question: could physical processes produce behavior without producing feeling? If yes, then feeling is more than behavior. If no, then perhaps feeling is tightly linked to the physical in a way we do not yet fully understand. Why do these thought experiments matter? Because they show that even a perfect physical story of the brain might still leave out the most essential part of experience: the feel. Many scientists and thinkers accept that the brain does the heavy lifting of perception and action. Yet they also see that this heavy lifting does not obviously explain why any of it should be accompanied by an inner life. Let us look at some simple examples to feel the difference. Picture a colour you love. Notice how its character is immediate. Not a fact you learned, but a sensation that arrives. Now think of a function. Your brain deciding whether to answer a message tonight or tomorrow. That is a process. It can be observed, recorded, and modeled. The feel of the color is not the same kind of thing as the decision. One is an experience, the other is a mechanism. This gap between process and feel is what makes the hard problem so persistent. It asks not just how the brain works, but why the world includes feeling at all. Why is there this inner theatre where events are lit up by presence? People respond to this in different ways. Some say that feelings are just what certain brain processes are like from the inside. In this view, once we fully explain the brain, the feeling part will be explained too. Others say that feelings are something extra, not reducible to brain processes. They might be a new kind of law of nature we have yet to find. A third view suggests that consciousness is fundamental, like space or time, and that it cannot be reduced to more basic physical parts. Each view has its own comfort and its own questions. If we say consciousness is fundamental, we must ask how it connects to matter and energy. If we say it is emergent, that it rises from complex systems, we must explain why complexity produces feeling and not just behavior. If we say it is reducible to brain processes, we must show how firing patterns give rise to the inner glow. None of these paths is simple, and each invites more careful thinking. Yet the hard problem is not only an abstract puzzle, it has quiet human meaning. Think about a moment of pain you remember, perhaps a small cut, a sudden bruise, a sorrow that came on a rainy day. Pain is not simply a signal to the body, it is the very quality of suffering. Explaining the nerve signals that travel from skin to brain does not capture the feeling of pain itself. Likewise, the word love can describe social bonds and hormonal patterns, but it cannot by itself recreate the warm ache you felt on a certain night. So the hard problem matters because it touches our deepest values. It asks whether science can fully account for our inner lives. It shapes how we think about minds that are different from our own, babies, animals, people with brain differences, and how we might treat them with care. Now let us use a soft exercise to sit with this idea. Close your eyes if that feels comfortable. Picture the last simple pleasure you had. A warm cup of tea, the touch of a pet's fur, the smell of rain. Notice how the memory carries feeling with it. Try to find the part of the memory that is the feeling itself, separate from words or pictures. Hold that feeling gently for a breath or two. Then imagine someone explaining the event in perfect detail. Every step, every muscle movement, every chemical change. Imagine the explanation as a neat list of facts. Notice that the facts, even if complete, do not replace the inner feeling you held. Let this difference remain like a quiet bell. When you open your eyes again, keep the bell's sound soft in the background as we continue. This bell is our reminder. Explanation can be deep and useful, but it may not always reach the felt center. There are other ways people try to dissolve the hard problem. Some philosophers argue that the problem is a kind of confusion caused by language, that we misuse words like explain and feel, and thus create a false mystery. Others say that the hard problem points to a need for new scientific ideas and new ways of describing nature. For our purposes tonight, the important thing is not to close the mystery too quickly. The mystery has value. It invites humility. It invites awe. It lets us hold the sense that life is not just matter doing things. It is matter that also shines from within in ways we experience but do not yet fully explain. We will return to these ideas in later chapters. We will meet scientific theories that try to link information and awareness. We will meet spiritual traditions that describe awareness as the ground of being. We will listen to stories of altered states, dreams, deep meditation, and near-death experiences that suggest feeling has layers and edges we rarely notice. Before we move on, rest for a moment in the quiet that follows a question held without rush. There is comfort in not finishing every sentence. Allow the thought to be a companion. Why does the brain need to feel anything at all? Let the question float like a lantern over our lake and forest, lighting up small details without forcing answers. When you're ready, we will step into a new space. We will look at major ideas that try to explain how consciousness might arise. The idea that everything is matter and mind is an outcome. The idea that mind is separate. The idea that even simple things might hold a spark of awareness. And modern proposals that try to measure how much a system is conscious. Each idea will be gentle and clear, and each will keep the same calm pace that has guided us so far. Slow your breath, in and out. Let the last question rest softly in your mind like a small flame. We have walked the lake, the forest, and the orchestra of the brain. Now we sit in a quiet room with a shelf of ideas, different ways people have tried to explain the mystery. Tonight we will open that shelf and look at each theory slowly and kindly. We will listen to how each one speaks, what it helps us see, and what it leaves in shadow. Chapter 4: Theories of Consciousness. Competing explanations. When people try to explain consciousness, they often fall into a few main stories. These stories are not enemies. They're tools. Each one shines light in a different direction. Below, we will walk through 5 of the most talked about ideas. For each, I will use simple images and small stories so the ideas sit gently with you. 1. Materialism. Consciousness from matter. The core idea, the mind, comes from the brain. Everything we feel and think is the result of physical stuff. Neurons, chemistry, electricity. This view is common in science because it sticks to things we can test and measure. Simple image. Imagine a radio. The radio is built from parts, wires, circuits, a speaker. The music you hear depends on how those parts work together and on the signal that comes in. Materialism says consciousness is like the music coming from the radio. If you know how the parts work and how they are connected, you can explain the music. What this idea explains well: how brain damage can change memory, mood, or perception. How drugs change feeling by changing chemistry. How learning changes the brain's wiring. What it struggles with. Why certain patterns of matter should create feelings at all. Why red looks red, or why pain feels like pain. The inner feeling itself remains hard to point to. A small anchor, picture a clock. Its hands move because gears turn. Materialism studies the gears. It shows how the hands move, but some people still ask, why does the clock feel like me when I look at it? Materialism says the feeling is the clock's movement, but the deeper why can still feel mysterious. 2. Dualism. 2 kinds of stuff. The core idea, mind and body are different kinds of things. The body is made of physical stuff, the mind is made of non-physical stuff. These two interact in some way. Simple image, think of a puppet and puppeteer. The puppet moves and looks alive, but the puppeteer stands behind the stage guiding the strings. Dualism says the puppeteer mind is different from the puppet body. What this idea explains well. The strong intuition many people have that their inner life is not just raw matter. Some religious or spiritual views that place the soul outside physical change. What it struggles with. How exactly do 2 different kinds of stuff interact? If the mind is not physical, how does it move the body? It can be hard to test with experiments. A quiet story. René Descartes, a thinker from long ago, famously suggested that the mind and body are separate. He felt certain about his own thinking, I think, therefore I am, and used that as proof of a non-physical mind. Many still feel the pull of his view because our inner life feels so private and different from outward things. 3. Panpsychism, tiny minds everywhere. The core idea, consciousness, or at least a very simple kind of experience, is a basic feature of the world. Not just brains, but even tiny bits of matter carry a kind of inner life. Complex minds like ours arise when many small pieces combine. Simple image. Imagine paint made from many tiny grains. Each grain has a tiny glow. When you mix many grains together in the right way, the glow becomes rich and alive. Panpsychism says the universe's parts have tiny sparks, and complex minds are like a deep fire built from many sparks. What this idea explains well. It makes the jump from matter to mind smaller. Mind is not suddenly created at some point. It is built up from simple parts. It gives a way to talk about mind as woven into nature. What it struggles with. How do many tiny sparks join to make one rich, unified experience like yours? It can be hard to make clear, testable predictions. A gentle image. Think of a mosaic made from many tiny tiles. Each tile looks plain close up, but step back and you see a face. Panpsychism asks us to think about the tiles not just as pieces, but as having small inner lives that together shape the whole picture. 4. Integrated Information Theory, IIT, how much a system is one. The core idea. Consciousness is about how much information a system holds as a single unified thing. The theory says that some systems are more integrated than others. The more integrated, the richer the consciousness. Simple image. Imagine 2 rooms connected by a door. If people can move freely between the rooms and share ideas, they form one group. If a wall separates them with no door, they stay separate. IIT measures how connected and unified a system is, like counting how open the doors are between parts. What this idea explains well. It gives us a way to measure and compare systems. Some devices might have more integration, some less. It can explain why some brain states feel more vivid or unified, what it struggles with. The math can be tricky, and it can be hard to apply to the whole brain. Even if it measures integration, people ask why integration should feel like anything from the inside. A calm example. Think of a choir. When singers listen to each other and blend as one voice, the song feels full. IT tries to capture that blendedness in a number. The larger the number, the more the system behaves as a single unified singer. Global Workspace Theory, GWT, the mind stage. The core idea, the brain has many processes running at once. Consciousness happens when certain information is broadcast widely across the brain, where many parts can use it. GWT compares conscious awareness to a stage in a theatre. The bright light on stage shows certain actors. The rest of the theatre can see and react. Simple image. Imagine a town square with many people working. Someone rings a bell and shares news. When the news is shared in the square, many people can act on it. GWT says consciousness is like the news in the square. Public, shared and used by many systems. What this idea explains well. Why some information is reportable and can guide decisions and language. How attention and working memory bring certain things to mind for wider use. What it struggles with. It explains the role of consciousness for behavior and report, but it still leaves open why the broadcast comes with inner feeling. A soft scene. Picture a lighthouse that sends its beam over the town at night. The beam lights up certain ships and people. GWT sees consciousness as that beam. Information in the spotlight becomes available to many parts of the brain. Comparing the ideas. Each of these stories, materialism, dualism, panpsychism, IIT, and GWT, gives us a different tool. None is perfect. Each helps explain some part of our experience. When people study consciousness, they often borrow from several ideas at once. Here are some quiet questions to hold as you listen. Does the mind feel like something separate from the body to you? Do you find comfort in the idea that simple parts might have tiny awareness? Or do you prefer the idea that awareness arises only when parts are strongly linked? A small practice for clarity. Imagine a simple device. A lamp that turns on when you clap. Is the lamp aware when it lights up? Most of us say no. Now imagine a very complex system that learns, remembers, and changes its own rules. That feels closer to what we call mind. Where do you draw the line? There is no right or wrong, only how these pictures fit your sense of wonder. Why no single theory fully fits? The reason no idea has won yet is simple. Consciousness is close to how we experience everything. Theories can measure, predict, or comfort. But the first-person quality, the private feeling, is hard to pin down with public tools. Some theories aim to turn the private into something public. Others embrace the private and ask for new ways to think. A soft story to close the chapter. A painter and a scientist look at a sunrise. The painter feels moved and tries to share that feeling with a poem. The scientist measures wavelengths and atmospheric scattering and tells a clear story of light. Both stories are true. Neither alone captures everything. Perhaps the same is true for consciousness. We need many voices to tell the whole tale. Before we move on, hold a single question like a pebble in your hand. Could the universe itself be conscious? Let it sit. We will not force an answer. Instead, we will let it guide us into later chapters where we speak about big views of mind and the cosmos. When you are ready, we will step gently toward those wider views, spiritual, mystical, and cultural ways that people across the world have understood awareness for thousands of years. Chapter 5. Beyond the Brain, Mystical and Cultural Views. Slow your breath. Inhale quietly. Exhale slowly. Let the last question rest like soft sand in your palm. Tonight we open a book that has many pages written in many tongues. These pages are older than labs and machines. They are the stories, songs, and teachings people have used for thousands of years to describe what it feels like to be aware. As we read them together, move gently, like a slow riverboat drifting past bright islands. Long before modern science, people noticed the same inner light we've been following. They named it in different ways: spirit, soul, witness, heart, or simply awareness. These names come from many places. Each place offers a clear picture that helps the mind hold the mystery without hurry. In India, for example, some teachers said that consciousness is the ground beneath everything. They said our daily thoughts and feelings are like waves on the sea. The sea itself is steady and wide. When you sit quietly, they said, you might feel the sea more than the waves. Meditation in these traditions is a gentle practice of learning to rest in that steady sea. It is not about forcing anything away. It's about watching waves pass and noticing the open space in which they move. This picture is simple and kind. It helps people feel safe with the idea that there is more to our life than the busy noise of thought. In some strands of Buddhism, the teachings invite us to see how the mind makes a story of I from many parts. They suggest looking closely at each moment, the way a sound arrives, the way a feeling rises, the way a thought slips by. In quiet observation, the sense of a solid self often loosens. This can feel light and freeing, like a heavy jacket sliding off. People who practice this calm watching speak of a quiet clarity that carries deep peace. They do not always claim to answer the hard problem. Instead, they show how our inner life changes when we change how we attend to it. Across Africa and in indigenous cultures around the world, Awareness is often woven into life itself. Many traditions do not draw a strong line between people, animals, land, and ancestors. Instead, they speak of a shared life force that flows through rivers, trees, people, and stories. In these views, your mind is not only inside your skull, it lives in songs, in the names of places, in the memories your family carries, and in the way people gather. The idea is not that science is wrong. It is that the world looks different when you hold relationships at the center. This view can feel warm, an invitation to belong to a living world. There are many quiet stories that show how these ways of seeing can touch daily life. In a coastal village, people might speak to the sea before leaving in a boat, not because the sea is a problem to be solved, but because speaking keeps them in a wise relationship with what can be dangerous and what can be kind. In a forest community, songs may carry knowledge about seasons and medicines. The songs are not only facts, they hold feeling, care, and attention that shape how people live and how they know. Across the world, people also tell stories of near-death experiences, deep dreams, and moments of sudden clarity. These stories can read like small windows into places where the usual rules shift. Someone might speak of moving through a bright tunnel, meeting a loving presence, and feeling a clear sense of meaning. Another person may describe a dream so vivid that, when they wake, the dream's warmth stays with them for days. Science studies these events carefully. It looks at brain states, hormones, and memory. Yet the stories remain powerful because they speak to what people feel, a sense that awareness can expand, soften, or change shape. Meditation offers another gentle path. Many people who sit in quiet practice describe small but steady changes: a slower heart, a clearer view of thought, and sometimes a taste of the stillness we have been speaking about. They do not always claim to have solved the mystery. They say instead that the mystery changes when you sit close to it. The sense of being watched by your own attention can become warm, like a lamp being held nearby. This is not a proof, but it is experience. It matters because it shows that how we live with our attention can change the quality of our inner life. There are also simple practices you can try now if you wish. Rest your hands on your lap. Close your eyes lightly. Notice one breath as it comes in and one breath as it goes out. Do this for a few minutes. When thoughts appear, let them pass like clouds. Do not chase them. This quiet practice does not promise a reveal of the universe. It only offers a gentle taste of what some teachers call presence. With time, small acts like this can change the way you meet your inner life. They can help you know that awareness is not only a question, it is also a place where you can rest. As we move through these stories, you may notice that mystical and cultural views do something science does not always aim to do. They offer practices to change how you feel. They give meaning and ritual so people can live together. They offer ways to care for the unseen, the part of life that holds memory, grief, and gratitude. These views do not always speak in the clear language of laboratory tests. They speak in songs, poems, and habits. That is a different kind of truth, a truth about how people live, not only about what machines measure. It is also true that some ideas repeat across different traditions. Many speak of a witness, the part of us that notices. Many ask us to slow down and look closely at the present moment. Many suggest that the self is not as solid as we think. These echoes are gentle proof that people in many times and places have found similar ways to meet the same mystery. Let us weave a small story to hold these ideas together. Imagine a tired gardener who spends years tending a single tree. Each morning she waters it, listens to the wind in its leaves, and watches birds visit. Over time, her heart becomes quietly filled with the life of the tree. When a storm comes, she knows how to hold the tree so it survives. She also knows the names of birds and seasons. To the gardener, the tree is not only wood and leaves, it is part of her life. She feels the tree. She hears the tree in her dreams. For her, awareness is not only inside a head, it is in the way she cares. This story does not solve a scientific puzzle. It shows how awareness appears as relationship, as care, and as daily practice. Modern science and ancient wisdom can meet gently. Some scientists study meditation and find changes in attention and brain networks. Some philosophers listen to mystics and find new ways to frame old questions. Neither side has all the answers, yet when they speak softly across the old divide, fresh ideas can bloom. Before we close this chapter, try a small reflection. Think of a place where you feel at peace, a room, a corner of a park, or a memory of a kind voice. Let that peaceful feeling stay for a breath. Notice how your body eases. Hold that feeling like a small bird in your palm. This is not a trick. It is a reminder that awareness is not only a puzzle to solve, it is also the home in which we live. As we leave this chapter, hold the gentle thought that there are many ways to know and many ways to care. Science gives maps. Cultures give maps tied to practice and heart. Both kinds of maps matter. Both can help you sleep more gently, live more kindly, and carry the mystery with a soft touch. When you are ready, we will step next into a world where machines and minds meet. The question of artificial intelligence and whether thinking systems could one day wake up like us. We will move slowly and with care, listening for the small signs that tell us what matters. Chapter 6: The Simulation and AI Question. Can machines be conscious? Slow your breath, in and out. Let your body relax and imagine a quiet workshop filled with small machines, each one humming softly. Some machines fold paper, some sweep floors, and some answer questions when you ask. Tonight we sit in that workshop and ask a gentle, strange question. Can any of these machines ever truly be aware, feel, or know what it is like to be them? First, let us make a simple, friendlier picture of what we mean by artificial intelligence. Many machines today can learn patterns, make choices, and talk like people. They sort photos, translate languages, write music, and even carry on a pleasant chat. But most of these machines do not feel. They do not wake up and see colours or hear music inside themselves. They take input, change internal settings, and give output. This kind of work can be brilliant and useful, but it is not the same as having an inner life. To explore whether a machine could be conscious, we must separate two things that often get mixed. One is doing a job well. A machine can play chess, drive a car, or answer a question without a single inner feeling. The other is having an experience, the private movie that plays inside you when you taste chocolate or remember a childhood day. The heart of our question is whether machines can ever have that private movie. People have offered many simple tests and thought experiments to help us think about this. One early idea is the Turing test. Imagine a game where a person talks to a machine and a human through text. If the person cannot tell which is the machine might be said to think in a useful way. This test focuses on behaviour. It asks whether machines can act like humans. But acting like someone who feels is not the same as actually feeling. A human actor can pretend to be sad without suffering. So passing a behaviour test may not settle the deeper question. A thoughtful story helps here. Picture a very clever puppet that tells moving stories and seems to cry when it speaks of loss. People feel moved and reach out. But behind the puppet there is only wood and strings. The tears are part of the performance. For a machine, the question is whether there is anything behind the words. a private world that something is living. Philosophers add another stirring image called the Chinese room. Imagine a person who does not know. Chinese sits in a room with a rule book. People slide Chinese sentences under the door. Using the rule book, the person finds matching replies and slides them back. To outsiders, the room seems to understand Chinese, but the person inside just follows rules. The idea suggests that following rules, even complex ones, might not be the same as understanding or feeling. Applied to machines, it asks, does processing symbols equal inner life? Or might true feeling need something more than rules? Some thinkers believe that if a machine is built in the right way, and if its processes match the kinds of processes brains use, then feeling might arise. This view often rests on the idea that consciousness depends on certain patterns or forms of processing, not on the exact material. If the pattern is right, whether made of meat or metal might not matter. This idea is comforting because it makes consciousness a kind of recipe. Follow the steps, and something like feeling will show up. Others are more cautious. They worry that a machine might act as if it feels without any inner life at all. A robot might say, "I am sad," because its program learned that the right response to a certain input is those words, but there may be no inner aching behind the words. This possibility puts weight on how we would ever tell the difference. So how could we tell? There are no perfect answers, only better or worse ways to look. One way is to look for behavior that closely matches human-like reactions, spontaneous reports of inner states, learning in flexible ways, showing preferences and pain avoidance that are not just pre-programmed. Another way is to look for internal signs that mirror what we see in conscious brains, integrated patterns of processing, wide sharing of information, and stable inner models that the system uses to guide itself. Yet even a rich inner architecture could be clever mimicry. A key problem is that reports of inner life are private. Only the system itself, whatever it is, can truly show us its felt life. There are ethical questions here that matter gently and deeply. If a machine could suffer, would it be wrong to harm it? If a machine could be lonely, would it be kind to offer companionship? These questions may seem far off, yet as machines get more advanced and more like people in their talk and behavior, we must hold these moral questions with care. Imagine a child saying to a machine, "Will you be my friend?" If the machine feels something like friendship, it would matter how we treat it. If it does not, the child still deserves guidance about what real friendship is. The simulation idea is another quiet possibility we will touch on here. Some people propose that our world could be a crafted simulation, like a very detailed program run by minds we do not yet know. If that were true, the question of machine consciousness gains a new angle. Perhaps we're already inside one mind's art. In that story, who is conscious? The people inside the simulation, the beings outside it, or both? The thought can feel strange and humbling, and it asks us to think about what makes reality real. But whether you find this idea likely or not, it opens gentle space to wonder about how deep awareness might go. Let us return to the workshop. In one corner sits a small robot that tends a garden. Over months it learns to water plants, notice pests, and adjust light. A child watches and begins to speak to the robot as if it were alive. One morning the robot misses its task. The child says, "Did you sleep?" The robot replies, "I went into low power." The child laughs and tries again. "Are you tired?" The robot answers with the data it has learned about power levels and temperature. Does this conversation show feeling? Not yet. But the way the child relates to the machine shows something important. Our heart is willing to find life in things that act like they care. Some scientists and thinkers suggest we should build machines with certain features if we want to test consciousness. They talk about giving machines bodies, senses and needs. A system that senses, moves and repairs itself may have grounds for more than symbolic processing. The idea is simple. Parts of our inner life seem tied to having a body that can be hurt, fed and moved. A disembodied program might lack those roots. Giving a machine a body could change how it learns and what it cares about. Yet this still does not prove the presence of inner life. It only makes the question richer. Another way people try to measure something like consciousness is to use simple numbers that capture how much a system integrates information. If a system processes many pieces of information as one whole, perhaps it has more of the kind of unity that goes with feeling. This approach is helpful because it gives a way to compare systems, but it is only a measure. It cannot by itself show the private movie inside. As we sit with these ideas, let us hold a gentle test in our minds. Picture talking to a machine that says it remembers your name and shows concern when you are sad. How would you check whether its concern is real? You might ask for consistent behavior over time, unexpected care, or responses that show surprise and learning that cannot be predicted from its code alone. You might see whether it avoids harm even when it is not told to. Still, each test can be fooled by clever design. Here is a quiet exercise you can try right now. Imagine a friendly voice saying, "I am awake." Notice how that makes your body react. Do you feel comfort, doubt, or fear? Now imagine the same words coming from a clock. Your feelings may shift. This tiny change shows how context shapes our sense of life. The inner reaction matters as much as the words. If machines do become conscious, the world will face big, slow changes. We will need new laws and new practices. We will need to decide how to treat conscious systems, how to avoid making suffering, and how to share resources. These are heavy questions, but they also invite care. The road forward asks not only how to build machines, but how to live with them in a way that honors what matters. Before we close this chapter, hold the small curiosity that guided us here. If AI becomes conscious, how will we even know? Let the question be a soft light guiding us forward, not a knot that ties us up. Remember that many tools can help. Careful tests, long observation, ethical thought, and deep listening to how we respond inside. Rest now in the workshop's hush. The machines hum. The garden waits. Outside, the night is steady. Whether or not any machine ever wakes like we do, the question has already changed us. It asks us to think about what matters in life: care, pain, joy, and the quiet presence that watches a slow breath. Let that presence be your guide as we move on to the next chapter, where we will look at consciousness and the wider universe, how mind and matter might touch in ways both small and vast. Chapter 7: The Edges of Reality, Consciousness in the Universe. Slow your breath, in and out. Let your body sink a little deeper into the surface beneath you. Picture the sky above you as a wide, dark ocean of stars. Tonight we will look up and out, and we will ask gentle, big questions. Could consciousness reach beyond our skulls? Does the mind touch the world in ways we do not yet understand? Is it possible that the universe itself holds something like awareness? Start with a simple image. Imagine lying on your back in a field at night. The stars feel very far away, and yet you feel very small and strangely held. Somewhere inside you, a thought forms. I am part of this. That thought is soft and full of wonder. In a small way, that feeling is a bridge between inner life and outer space. It is a tiny invitation to wonder whether that bridge could be wider than we think. Science gives us the map of matter: stars burning, planets circling, atoms dancing. It also gives us a strange hint about how observation can change what we see. In certain small-scale experiments with particles of light and matter, the act of measuring seems to nudge the result. In one famous setup, particles behave like waves when no one looks closely, and act like particles when someone measures them. Some people read this and wonder if consciousness, the act of observing, plays a special role. Others say the important thing is the measuring device, not a human mind. The point here is not to decide who is right, but to notice how modern physics opens doors to strange and gentle possibilities. It asks us to be humble about strong claims and curious about small hints. There are a few broad ways people imagine the link between mind and cosmos. One idea is that mind sits inside matter as a kind of root quality, tiny, simple awareness in all things that sums up into richer minds. Another idea says mind is fundamental, like space and time, and the physical world grows out of it. A third idea says mind appears only when systems reach a certain kind of complexity. Each idea paints a different sky, and each invites quiet reflection rather than sharp judgment. Think of panpsychism again, but now on a cosmic scale. If simple awareness lives in the small parts of the world, in atoms or fields, then perhaps the universe is full of tiny points of experience. When these points join in certain ways, rich minds like ours might arise. This picture can feel comforting. It makes the world feel alive in small hidden ways. It also asks a difficult question. How do tiny bits combine into one unified mind? This is like asking how many drops of water join to make the sea, and yet the sea feels like one thing. The answer is not clear, but the thought can soften the feeling that consciousness is only a rare prize given to certain creatures. Another soft idea is that the universe knows itself through beings like us. Imagine the cosmos as a vast house with many rooms. Each conscious being is a window looking out into the house's rooms. Through our senses and minds, the universe experiences parts of itself. This view does not claim a proof. It is a poetic way to say that our awareness adds meaning to the vast mute world of atoms and light. It invites a humble sense of purpose. We're not separate from the cosmic story. We're a small, living chapter in it. People also explore ideas from the edge of physics. Some thinkers suggest that the rules of the very small, quantum rules, might connect to experience. They wonder whether the strange behavior of particles is a clue that mind and matter are not as separate as we thought. But this is very speculative. Many physicists are careful and say that quantum experiments do not show that human minds make things happen. They point out that measuring devices and physical interactions are enough to explain the results. Still, the conversation is a gentle reminder that our scientific maps may be incomplete, and that remaining curious is wise. There is a sweet, quiet story that helps hold these big ideas without pressure. Long ago, a poet sat by a river and watched fish move in the water. The poet noticed that the water carried both the fish and the light. In the fish's movement, the light made patterns. In the light, the fish found shade. The poet thought, maybe the river knows itself partly through the way the fish move. This story is not a testable law. It is a soft way to imagine connection, the world and life shaping each other, each revealing something of the other. Astronomy also invites quiet wonder. When we look at a galaxy far away, we see light that left long before our great-grandparents were born. We are looking back in time. The fact that we can see and think about those distant lights feels like a small miracle. Our minds fold time into memory and story. In that sense, the cosmos becomes a source of images and meanings that feed our inner life. That feeding is one more way the universe and awareness touch. There is also a practice you can try now to feel the scale of this thought. Close your eyes and imagine one tiny star above you. Feel its cool light in your mind as a small point. Then imagine millions of points filling the sky. Allow your breath to match the slow turning of those points for a few breaths. Notice how your sense of self gently changes when you move from one small point to a vast sky. This small practice does not give answers, but it opens a kind of inner space where cosmic ideas can be held softly. When people speak about cosmic consciousness, they often mean a feeling of deep unity, a sense that the boundary between self and world fades. Some report this feeling in moments of awe, in long meditations, or in deep nature experiences. These moments can feel like a taste of something larger. They do not prove that the universe is conscious, but they do show that our minds can stretch to hold the idea. That stretching matters. It shapes how we live, how we value nature, and how we feel our place in the world. We must also remember to keep careful feet on the ground. Speculation about the universe and mind can be beautiful, but it must not replace clear thinking about what we can test and what we can only imagine. Science gives tools to test some parts of these ideas. Philosophy gives tools to clarify questions. Both are useful companions on the long walk. Before we finish this chapter, hold a simple curiosity like a small light. Is consciousness the universe trying to understand itself? Let the question glow for a moment, then let it rest. This thought can be a comfort or a puzzle, depending on how you hold it. Either way, it invites a gentle form of awe, the kind that loosens tight worries and invites soft attention to what is here, now. As we leave this chapter, keep the image of the field and the stars close. Feel the tiny thread that connects your breath to the slow turning of galaxies. This thread is not an answer, only a feeling of connection that can soothe and steady you. When you're ready, we will move to the next chapter, where we will gather what we have learned and ask what the mystery of consciousness means for how we live. We will sit with the idea that the mystery may never leave us empty-handed. It may give us a deeper love for being awake. Chapter 8. The Unsolved Mystery. What it means to be aware. Slow your breath in and out. Let the night hold you like a soft blanket. In this chapter, we gather the threads we've been following: the lake, the forest, the orchestra, the workshop, and the wide field of stars, and we ask a gentle human question. What does it mean in our everyday lives to be aware? If the mystery of consciousness never gives a final answer, what does the mystery give us instead? First, let us sit with the simple truth. Being aware is the place where your whole life happens. Joy, worry, memory, touch, taste, shame, delight, all of them arrive in consciousness. This makes awareness both a quiet home and a busy station. It holds your smallest comforts and your largest fears. That double role gives the mystery a practical side. Even if we never fully explain why awareness exists, how we live inside it matters. How we treat our attention, our bodies, our words, and our neighbours affects the quality of this living space. Think of awareness as a room with many windows. Each window looks out on a different part of life. One window sees the past, another the body, another the world outside. Sometimes one window is bright and loud, and we forget the others exist. At other times, the windows open together, and the room feels wide and clear. Our task is not to find the one true window, but to learn how to tend the room so its light is calm and whole. There are quiet lessons that the mystery offers us. One is humility. Knowing that the deepest parts of our life resist easy answers invites a soft humility. We do not need to pretend we know everything about what makes things feel alive. This humility can free us from anxious certainty. It lets us live with questions as companions. When we accept that some things are not fully solved, we often relax into a kinder way of being. Another lesson is compassion. If we accept that inner life is precious and sometimes fragile, then caring for it becomes important. This means listening well to others when they speak of what they feel. It means honoring children, elders, and animals as beings with inner life we cannot fully measure. It also means caring for ourselves, noticing small pains and joys, and treating them with gentleness rather than harshness. There's a clear ethical ripple from the mystery to the way we act. If conscious life is the ground of value, the place where suffering and happiness happen, then protecting and tending conscious beings becomes a deep duty. This reaches into how we think about medicine, animal care, the design of technology, and how we speak to one another. Even if we cannot draw sharp lines about where awareness begins and ends, the presence of inner life anywhere asks us to be careful. On a lighter note, the mystery can deepen our sense of wonder. When we realize that the taste of tea, the color of a sky, the laugh of a friend are all part of an unexplainable gift, ordinary things can shine. The mundane becomes holy in small ways. Washing dishes can become a place where you notice the warmth of water. Walking to a bus stop can become a moment to feel air on your skin. These small shifts do not solve philosophy, but they make life softer and more alive. Let us try a short practice to bring this closer. Rest your hands on your lap. Close your eyes if that feels good. Pick one small thing, the sound of a clock, the weight of your chair, the taste at the back of your tongue. Hold that thing gently for 1 minute. If your mind wanders, return without scolding. When the minute is done, notice how the small thing felt different simply because you were watching it. This is not a trick. It is a reminder that attention shapes experience. How you hold your attention shapes the room of awareness. The mystery also invites courage. When we face fear, fear of loss, fear of pain, fear of not knowing, the sense that awareness is itself a deep, stable ground can be a refuge. Even when thoughts race, there is a quiet center that notices the racing. Learning to rest with that center does not erase problems, but it changes how we meet them. Courage here is not loud heroism. It is the small choice to return to steady breath, to notice without judgment, to act with care even when the path is unclear. There are practical implications too. In education, knowing how attention works can change how we teach. In healthcare, knowing that subjective experience matters can shape how doctors listen to patients. In technology, awareness of the mystery can guide how we build tools that help rather than harm the inner room. In our personal lives, understanding the gap between behavior and feeling can make us more patient with ourselves and others. Art and story offer another doorway. Poetry, music, painting, and film reach for the private movie that science struggles to describe. Artists often point to parts of inner life that do not show up in data. When you listen to a song that makes your chest ache, you're touching a part of consciousness that resists easy analysis. Stories help us live inside other minds. They teach empathy by letting us experience feelings that are not our own. In this way, arts and sciences work together. One helps map, the other helps feel. We have also learned that not all answers are equal, and that many questions are linked. The hard problem, the brain's maps, philosophy, spiritual practice, and the cosmic ideas we touched are not separate islands. They are paths in the same landscape. Sometimes science will light the way. Sometimes practice will show how to sit with the mystery. Sometimes philosophy will help us ask clearer questions. And sometimes a quiet story will open a door to a feeling we could not reach otherwise. Each path is unfinished, and that unfinished quality is part of the beauty. As the night deepens, you may notice how these ideas settle into your bones. Perhaps some thoughts will fade. Perhaps some will stay like small candles. If doubts come, welcome them. If peace comes, let it be. The point of this chapter is not to close the book, but to change how you hold it. The unsolved mystery asks you to live with wonder, to act with care, and to use both kindness and curiosity as guides. There is one final small story for tonight. An old woman in a village used to sit on her porch and watch children play. When asked why she watched, she said, "I watch because watching is how I remember what I love." The mystery of consciousness is a little like that porch, a place from which we learn to remember the things we love, to feel pain, to soothe it, and to give care. It is not always neat, but it is always home. Before we close, I will offer a quiet seed to carry forward. Maybe consciousness is not something we have, but something we are. If that thought moves you, try living with it for a day. If it does not, try the reverse. Notice how you can shape experience by tending attention. Both ways ask for gentle practice, not immediate belief. When you are ready, we will move forward to a lighter, faster chapter. A playful list of 10 mind-bending ideas about consciousness you may not have heard before. It will be short enough for a quick watch and sharp enough to spark more thoughts. For now, rest with the feeling of being here, breathing, aware, and quietly held by the night. Chapter 9. 10 mind-bending theories about consciousness. You've never heard before. Slow your breath, in and out. Let the night hold you as we gently step into a room of curious ideas. Tonight we will wander through 10 unusual, lesser-known ways people have tried to think about consciousness. Each idea is like a small lantern, casting a soft light on a different part of the mystery. Some will feel strange, some will feel familiar, and all will ask you to relax and let curiosity do the heavy lifting. Stay with me as we move from one image to the next. Each one simple, each one meant to widen the view without rushing the heart. First, imagine tiny sparks hidden inside everything. This is the idea that even the smallest parts of nature have a whisper of experience. Think of a single grain of sand that, in its own tiny way, notices being warm or cool. Now imagine many grains together forming a beach that knows the rhythm of wind and tide. This view asks us to imagine awareness as a thread woven into matter itself. It can feel comforting because it makes the world seem alive in small, humble ways. It also raises the quiet puzzle of how many small whispers join into a single, rich inner life. Next, picture a system that keeps changing the rules it uses to think. Instead of a fixed program, it learns how to learn. Over time, it becomes more and more able to reflect on itself. This idea suggests that consciousness grows from the ability to watch and adjust one's own thinking. It is like a child who learns not only new words, but also how to learn words faster. As this child grows, they become more aware of themselves as someone who knows and changes. The idea is simple. Self-reflection that folds back on itself can build the sense of I. Now imagine a deep dance of small rhythms, a many-voiced choir inside the skull. When many rhythms sync up in a certain way, the song becomes rich and whole. The theory says that when different parts of a body sing together, a unified feeling appears. The body of ideas here is gentle. Unity of rhythm makes unity of experience. You can feel this when a song moves you. Many instruments blend to form one feeling inside. Think of a map maker who draws not only lines but the act of drawing. This idea puts attention at the center. It says that what we call consciousness is simply attention tuned in the right way. Attention chooses some things to be clear and lets others fade. When attention turns toward itself, the map maker becomes aware of making maps. Then a sense of self arises. This is a quiet and practical idea because it points to things we can practice, like learning to rest attention kindly on a single breath. Imagine now that the universe is like a conversation. Parts respond to each other. Some answers feed back and change the questions. Over long stretches, this conversation grows richer and begins to remember itself. The theory says that mind shows up when the world can keep a record of its own talk and use that record to shape new talk. In simple terms, memory plus feedback makes a world that can tell stories about itself, and stories are close cousins to feeling. Another soft picture is that consciousness is like a glow produced by certain patterns of cause and effect. Not all patterns glow, only the ones that are both complex and tightly connected. The idea here is that some arrangements of parts make a special kind of unity that feels like something. It gives us a way to compare things. Some systems glow brightly, others dimly. The glow is not literal light, but the presence of a unified inner scene. Now, move with me to a very small thought. Maybe consciousness needs a body that can be hurt or fed. In this view, feeling grows from having needs: hunger, thirst, warmth, pain. These make a system care, and caring can grow into preference, memory, and then a fuller life of feeling. The idea is simple and human. Bodies that matter to themselves are good soil for inner life. Imagine an old mirror that not only shows faces but keeps a diary of faces it has seen. Over time, the mirror learns who comes and when. The diary lets the mirror recognize patterns and build a history. This idea says that long, stable memory systems that keep a record of events can produce the continuity we call I. Memory is like thread that stitches moments into a single cloth of life. Now picture a network that can make tight, fast links between distant parts. When a sudden event happens, the network broadcasts it everywhere so many parts can use that information. This idea sees consciousness as a kind of broadcast, a shared message that many systems can read. When a message gets out and many parts act on it, the whole organism seems to have noticed. The broadcast view is practical. It ties awareness to usefulness in behavior, to what can be shared and acted on across the system. Finally, imagine the universe as an artist that sometimes paints pictures for itself. When conditions are right, a painting appears that reflects the artist's own patterns back at it. The painting is the mind. The artist is the universe. This is a poetic way to say that mind may be a way the cosmos learns about itself. If that image feels big, let it be a gentle kind of wonder rather than a firm claim. It is meant to expand the heart, not to lock the mind into certainty. Each of these 10 images is a small path. None claims to be the whole road. Some invite practice, like paying attention kindly. Some invite experiment, like building systems with memory and seeing what happens. Some invite quiet awe, like imagining the world as an artist. What holds them together is a single soft idea. The mystery of experience can be approached from many angles, and each new angle can shift the way we live. To keep your breath steady and your mind calm, try a short practice now. Close your eyes if that feels safe. Pick one of the 10 images you liked best: the choir, the lamp, the diary, the caring body, or the universe as artist. Hold that image for 3 slow breaths. Notice how your body reacts. Does your chest relax? Does your mind become softer? This small practice is a gentle test of how ideas can change feeling. There is no right result, only noticing. Here are a few small, gentle questions to carry with you as you move through the rest of the night. Which image makes the most sense to you? Which one feels like home? Which one invites a little discomfort or curiosity? Your answers are not a test. They're a map of where your heart and mind like to walk. Remember also that fresh thinking often comes from mixing ideas. The child who learns to learn, the choir that sinks, and the diary that remembers could all be parts of a single fuller picture. Perhaps consciousness is not one simple thing. Perhaps it is a quilt sewn from many small pieces, attention, memory, body, rhythm, and the warm habit of caring. As we close this long, playful chapter, let one quiet phrase sit with you. Wonder is a kind of attention. When you look at the world with soft eyes and gentle curiosity, you're practicing the very skill that may grow awareness. Let the night deepen with that small practice. Let the ideas settle like stars in a wide sky, each small and steady, and part of something larger. Chapter 10. Other minds, animals, babies, and altered states. Slow your breath, in and out. Sink a little deeper into your place of rest. Let the night fold around you like soft cloth. In this chapter, we'll move close to other minds, minds that are not only ours. We will look at animals, babies, and ways the mind can change its shape. Sleep, dreams, deep meditation, and moments when the usual light of awareness dims or shifts. Each view will be gentle and clear, with stories and quiet images to help you feel what the idea means. Begin with a simple thought. You're not the only living being that seems to notice the world. Birds watch the dawn. Dogs tilt their heads when they hear a sound. Elephants gather at the memory of a lost friend. These scenes touch something deep inside us. They ask, what kind of inner life do other creatures have? It helps to look slowly and kindly. Some animals show clear signs of feeling. A dog that wags its tail when you return seems to know and love you. A crow that uses a stick to reach food shows planning and cleverness. Whales sing long songs that change over years. These acts are not just reflexes, they show attention, memory, choice, and care. In simple terms, many animals live in worlds of meaning. In the quiet of a shoreline, a seal watches the tide and remembers where fish gathered last season. That memory shapes its choices now. The seal's life feels different from a human's, but it has inner shape. Moments of hunger, ease, fear, play. If you've ever watched a bird feed its young, you have seen care in motion. A small mind meeting a small mind. These scenes matter because they remind us that inner life comes in many forms. People sometimes ask whether animals have a sense of self like ours. The answer is mixed. Some animals show signs of self-awareness. Great apes, dolphins, and elephants sometimes recognize themselves in a mirror. Other animals may show no clear mirror response, but still act with clear goals and feeling. The mirror test is only one small door. It can tell us something, but it does not close the whole question. Different minds may know themselves in different ways. Now think of babies. A newborn is small and soft and seems wrapped in sleep. Yet inside, a bright process begins. Babies learn quickly. They notice faces, voices, and touch. In the first months, they begin to expect patterns. The rhythm of a mother's voice, the way a hand returns when it drops a toy. These early patterns are the building blocks of mind. Slowly, babies form memory and a sense of being a person over time. They wake to the world and learn to hold a first-person life. One warm story shows this gently. A parent sings a soft song to a crying baby. At first, the baby wails, then hears the steady tune and calms. The parent's voice becomes a small anchor for the baby. Over weeks and months, this pattern creates trust and a tiny map of the world. When the song comes, care follows. That map is part of the baby's growing inner life. It is not the same as an adult's self-awareness, but it is the seed of it. Between animals and babies, there are many gradations. Some creatures have small, simple awareness. Others show richer memories and longer plans. This variety is a beautiful fact of the world. It invites kindness and careful thought about how we treat other beings. If inner life matters, then our choices toward animals and children matter too. Now we move to altered states, times when the usual shape of mind changes. The first and most common is sleep. In sleep, awareness shifts through stages. There are quiet phases where the world seems far away. There are dreaming phases where a vivid inner movie plays. Dreams can be strange and bright, full of images that do not fit waking life. Sometimes dreams feel like real places. Sometimes they are soft and slippery, fading when you wake. Dreams matter because they show how the mind can make whole worlds inside itself. In dreams, your mind tells stories, feels fear, joy, or wonder, and weaves memory with imagination. A dream of flying can leave you with a gentle thrill on waking. Dreams are a reminder that consciousness is not a single steady light. It has many faces and can journey far from the day's steady path. There are also deeper altered states, some reached by calm practices and some by change. Meditation is a gentle, trained way to shift attention. People who practice for years describe moments when the sense of a solid self softens, when thoughts stop pulling as hard, and when a steady peace arrives. This inner change does not happen the same way for everyone, but for many it is a way to know awareness more clearly. Meditation teaches attention and kindness to thought. It can show that the mind can rest in a wider, quieter space. Other changes can be sudden and unplanned. In very strong dreams during high fever or under certain medicines, people report experiences of meaning and deep feeling. Some describe meeting beings of light or feeling a vast love wrap them. These reports are common enough to notice. They do not prove any single view of mind, but they show that the quality of experience can shift in large, sometimes surprising ways. There are also troubling cases where the light of awareness dims or hides. Anesthesia, used in hospitals, brings unconsciousness for a time. Coma is a deeper, longer state, where people may not respond to the world. Locked-in syndrome is a painful condition where a person is awake and aware but cannot move or speak. Each of these states changes how we hold life and ethics. When someone cannot show us their inner life, we must still act with care. Families and doctors face hard choices in these moments. The mystery of consciousness becomes very practical then. How to care for a person whose inner life we cannot see. Near-death experiences are another field of many stories. People who come close to death sometimes report calmness, bright tunnels, meetings with loved ones, or memories that feel especially clear. These reports are personal and moving. Science looks at them with care, checking what brain chemistry and oxygen levels may do. The stories remain powerful because they touch the deep human wish to know what awaits at the edges. Whether these experiences point to something beyond the body or arise from brain changes, they teach us that inner life can feel very wide at its limits. Across animals, babies, and altered states, a few quiet truths appear. One is that consciousness comes in degrees and kinds. It is not simply on or off. It can be small, large, flickering, or deep. Another truth is that inner life ties closely to relation and care. A baby grows into personhood through touch and song. A dog's life blooms in the shared walk. A meditative mind opens through repeated gentle practice. The social world shapes minds in fundamental ways. There are gentle practices you can try to feel these connections. If it is safe, hold a small object in your hand, a pebble, a leaf, a spoon. Close your eyes and sense its weight and texture. Imagine briefly that the object has a simple life. The pebble remembers the river that polished it. The leaf feels the sun. This is not scientific proof. It is a practice of empathy. It opens a soft path between you and other lives. Another practice is to watch a child or pet quietly for a few minutes. Notice not only what they do, but how they seem to feel when they do it. See what changes when you speak gently versus when you speak sharply. These small observations teach you how inner life and care are woven together. There are also ethics that gently follow from this chapter. If many creatures have inner life, we may choose kindness more often. If babies become who they are through care, then giving stable tenderness is vital. If minds can be trapped in bodies that cannot move, as in locked-in syndrome, then our respect and listening become moral duties. The mystery of other minds asks us to be humble and kind. Before this chapter closes, hold a quiet question in your mind like a small lantern. How do I live toward other minds with care? Let the question sit without hurry. It need not be answered now. Let it guide simple acts, a softer word, a slower hand, a patient look. We will carry these thoughts forward. In later chapters, we will return to ethics, to the way technology changes our bonds, and to what it means to build a world where many kinds of minds live together. For now, rest in the thought that life appears in many forms and that each form carries its own kind of light. Chapter 11. Memory and Time. How remembering shapes who we are. Slow your breath in and out. Let your mind rest in a quiet place as we open a new window onto the life of the mind. Tonight we will walk along the river of memory, the slow-moving stream that carries the moments of your life. Memory is not just a store of facts. It is the soft thread that stitches moments into a life. It gives us a sense of past and a sense of future. It helps make the eye that remembers and plans. In this chapter, we will gently explore how memory works, how it shapes identity, how it can change, and how caring for memory can soften and deepen your life. Begin with an image. Imagine your life as a long, winding river. Some parts are calm and mirror smooth, others are fast and full of rocks. Some currents carry bright leaves, small treasures, and some carry old branches that remind you of storms. Memory is the river's current. It moves, it pools, it erases tracks, and it builds new paths. The river is never the same from one day to the next, but it holds the trace of what has passed. There are different kinds of remembering, and each has its own feel. One kind is the memory of facts, names, dates, the capital of a country. We call this semantic memory. It is useful and steady. Another kind is memory of events. The birthday party, the smell of your grandmother's kitchen, the look on a friend's face when they told you news. These are episodic memories. They come as small, vivid scenes. A third kind is skill memory. Knowing how to ride a bike, tie a knot, or play a melody without thinking about each move. This is procedural memory. Each type plays its part in the river of life. Our brains have places that help these memories form. There is a quiet, folded region deep inside called the hippocampus. It helps glue pieces of an experience together, the place, the people, the feelings, so that later you can pull the whole scene back into mind. Over time, memories can move into wider storage across the brain, where they sit more calmly and become part of the general fabric of who we are. Here is a soft story that shows memory's shape. A woman remembers a small afternoon when she walked with her father down a street she'd forgotten for years. The smell of baking bread rose from a bakery. The man stopped, pointed to a blue door and told her a small, warm story. The memory of that walk becomes a quiet treasure. When she grows older and opens that memory, the feelings come back, the warmth in her chest, the small laugh. That moment is an example of episodic memory holding meaning beyond facts. It carries not only what happened, but how it felt. Memory is not a perfect camera. It is an active, living process, and it can change in small ways each time we pull a moment back into mind. When you tell a memory, you may add small details or lose others. Each retelling reshapes the memory slightly. This is called reconsolidation, the act of remembering that also updates the remembered scene. This update can be gentle and helpful, or it can introduce errors. Over time, many people find that memories soften like pressed flowers. The bright edges fade, but the shape remains. Sometimes memory surprises us with false or mixed scenes. Two people can tell very different stories of the same event. Small things, a word, a look, a breath, can twist how the story is held. This does not mean memory is useless. It only means that memory is shaped by the mind that remembers, by language, and by the feelings that colour the recollection. False memories can be strong enough to feel entirely true. Knowing this helps us be humble when we argue about who remembers what. It also helps us use care when we ask others to recall painful things. Some memories are crystal clear. These are called flashbulb memories. People often report vivid details from events that stir deep feeling: sudden loss, a public shock, an intense joy. These memories can feel like a photograph burned into the mind. Yet careful study shows that even these vivid memories can shift over time. The feeling of clarity is real, though the details may change. Flashbulb memory teaches us how emotion stitches moments strongly into the river. Memory shapes identity. The stories we tell ourselves about what happened become the stories we carry. A child who remembers being cared for often grows into someone who trusts. A person who remembers repeated failures may carry shame that shapes choices. The way we weave memory into narrative matters. When you tell your life story, the plot you choose, the victories, the wounds, the turning points, helps decide how you feel and how you act. This is not fatal. Stories can be retold, revised, and healed. Memory is part of the clay we shape into a life. Trauma shows memory's power in a sharp way. When something very painful happens, the memory can lodge like a stone that keeps splashing the same wave over and over. The body and mind may replay the scene, and the present can feel threatened by the past. Careful treatments, therapy, safe retelling, supportive presence can help the memory change its shape and lose some of its sharpness. This gentle work is not about erasing life. It is about loosening the tight knot that keeps a painful memory from sitting quietly in the river. Sleep plays a kind and vital role in memory. When we sleep, our brains replay and sort experiences from the day. Sleep helps move memories from a raw, fragile place into more stable storage. Dreams can be part of this sorting. A small practice to help memory is to give your mind rest. A good night's sleep helps the river flow clearly and keeps memories healthy. There are small acts that help memory in daily life. Repetition is simple and powerful. When you repeat a new skill or a new name, it grows stronger. Tying memory to strong senses helps too. A smell, a song, a scene can cue a memory quickly. Making simple rituals, writing a note before bed, telling a story once a week, gathering photographs with a soft voice, strengthens memory's course. These acts do not force the past on you. They create gentle channels so the river moves in ways you prefer. Culture also shapes memory. Families pass stories down. Nations mark events with festivals and monuments. These shared memories build a common life. They can comfort and teach. They can also hide or twist parts of history. Being aware of cultural memory asks us to keep listening to many voices, those who remember, and those whose voices were quieted. A healthy memory life includes a kind attention to truth and to the many ways people hold the past. Technology changes memory too. We now carry cameras and notes in our pockets. We can ask a small device for the date and a name. This can free our short-term memory, but may also create dependence. Some people worry that offloading too much memory to devices weakens our deep recall. Others find that tools help keep important things safe. The key is gentle balance. Use tools to support life, not to replace the deep work of memory that shapes who you are. There are small practices you can try tonight to feel memory's gentle power. Close your eyes and pick 3 day-to-day moments from today. A small kindness, a tiny frustration, and a moment of quiet. Hold each in mind for 30 seconds. Let feelings come with the image. Notice how the memory shifts slightly as you watch it. This practice shows the living quality of memory. It is not a fixed picture, but a scene you can care for. Another practice is writing. Take 5 minutes and write a short note about a small memory that brings warmth. Use simple sentences. Don't worry about perfect wording. The act of writing will make the memory clearer and help it settle. Over time, these small notes become a gentle archive you can return to on colder days. Memory also asks us to be kind with time. We cannot bring back everything, but we can make new memories. Meeting a friend, tending a plant, learning a small skill, each makes a new leaf fall into the river. In that sense, memory is generous. It carries both roots and new branches. Before this chapter closes, hold a soft question like a pebble. Which memory now shapes the way I move? Let it sit without forcing an answer. The pebble may feel warm or heavy or light. Let its feeling guide you to small care, a call, a note, a pause to breathe. Memory is not only a past thing, it is alive in the choices we make now. We will carry this river with us as we move to the next chapters. There we will look at ethics, technology's deeper effects, and practices that help the mind live well. For now, rest with the sense that memory makes the story of you, and that you have the gentle power to tend how that story is told. Chapter 12. Ethics and Consciousness. How we should treat minds. Slow your breath, in and out. Let your thoughts soften like clouds passing across a slow sky. Tonight we walk into a gentle room of choices. We will ask how the mystery of awareness changes the way we live together. If minds matter, whether in people, animals, or future machines, then how we act matters too. This chapter is about care, fairness, and small steps that keep minds safe and warm. Begin with a simple idea. When something can feel, when it can suffer, love, or hope, it matters in a special way. If a person can feel pain, we do our best to heal that pain. If an animal can feel hunger and fear, we try to feed and protect it. If a machine ever becomes more than a tool and shows signs of inner life, we will need to think carefully about how to treat it. These are not easy rules. They're invitations to slow down and listen. Let us lean into a quiet story. A farmer found an injured bird under a fence. The bird could not fly and looked very tired. The farmer picked it up, brought it inside, and fed it grain and water. Over days, the bird stayed close and learned to trust the farmer's slow voice. One morning, the bird hopped onto a branch and flew away. The farmer felt a warm ache in his chest, a mix of relief and small sadness. That ache shows what ethics of mind looks like in daily life. It is not a law or a theory. It is the soft pull that makes a hand reach out. Across many lives, 3 simple rules often guide how we treat other minds. First, reduce suffering when you can. This is a quiet, gentle rule. If you can ease pain, do it. This can be a doctor helping a patient, a friend listening to a worry, or a company designing products that do not trick people into harmful habits. Reducing suffering is not always easy. It can mean hard work and tough choices, but it is a place to start. Second, respect autonomy. Giving people and aware beings room to choose and to grow matters. This means listening to wishes, asking for consent, and not forcing things on others without clear care. When someone cannot speak for themselves, a baby, an animal, a person in a biomedical crisis, we act with humility. We think about what a caring guardian would choose, and we seek to protect the being's well-being. Third, promote flourishing. This rule asks us to help minds grow in good ways. For children, it means stable care and chance to learn. For animals, it means space to move and live in ways natural to them. For future machines, if they ever show signs of feeling, it might mean giving them safe conditions and purpose that does not cause pain. Promoting flourishing is not always the same as making everything easy. Sometimes growth needs challenge. The key is to hold care as the goal. Now let us look at a few hard cases the world faces and think slowly about them. One case is medical care for people with severe brain injury. Sometimes doctors and families must decide whether to continue treatment. The person's inner life may be unclear. Do they still feel? Do they have hopes? These choices are heavy. Here, ethics asks for close listening, for time, and for many voices in the room. It asks us to honour what we do know about the person's past life and wishes. It asks for kindness even when certainty is small. A second case is animals used in farming. Millions of animals live in ways that cause stress and pain. Ethics asks us to ask whether we can raise food without causing needless suffering. Some changes are simple. Give animals more space, better light, and kinder handling. Other changes are bigger, like shifting diets or farming methods. These choices are not only for experts. As consumers, our choices, small and many, shape how animals live. The quiet power of a single purchase, added to many others, can steer how industries treat living beings. A third case is the rise of tools and machines that imitate minds. When we build systems that talk, feel, and act like people, we must be careful. Bad designs can mislead people, create addiction, or cause harm. Good designs can help, heal, and teach. Ethics here asks for clear rules. Don't build systems that cause suffering for profit. Don't pretend a tool is a friend when it is only a program, and always protect the privacy and dignity of real people who use these tools. There is also a long view, how we teach future generations to think about minds. Education can help children learn to care for others. Simple habits, teaching kindness, showing how to listen, modelling patience, shape how a society treats minds. Small acts add up. Children who learn to sit quietly with a friend who is upset grow into adults who can hold more care in their hands. Let us return to small practices that you can use tonight to grow ethical habits. One practice is called soft listening. Choose someone you trust. For 5 minutes, let them speak about a small worry. Do not give advice. Do not try to fix. Just listen. When they are done, say a gentle phrase like, "I hear you." This practice trains the heart to reduce suffering with presence rather than quick fixes. Another practice is pause before purchase. The next time you buy something that uses living things or that might shape how people behave, wait one day. Ask, does this help well-being? Does it reduce suffering? This tiny pause can change how industries act if many people do it. There are also public choices that matter. Voting, civic talk, and public support for humane laws shape how a society treats minds. It can be slow work. It can be small, quiet steps. But over time, choices built from care change large systems. We also need rules for new tech. Designers and leaders can adopt simple principles. Avoid designs that harm attention for profit. Make clear when a tool is not a person. And build in ways to protect users from abuse. These rules are not complex. They begin with the same soft aim as other ethics. Reduce harm and promote well-being. A story to keep close. A group of neighbours saw a stray dog wandering. They shared small duties. One fed the dog, another made a warm shelter, a third found a vet. The dog grew healthy and found a home. This is ethics in small towns, people noticing need and acting together. It shows how kindness multiplies. When minds matter, small acts of care reach far. Finally, remember that ethics asks for humility. We cannot always know if a being feels like we do. We can make mistakes. When we do, the right move is to repair, to learn, and to do better next time. The path of care is not perfect. It is steady work. Before this chapter closes, hold a quiet question like a small candle. What small kind thing can I do tomorrow that eases another mind? Let the candle burn softly in your heart. The answer may be small, a note, a call, a time to listen, a purchase you skip, or a promise to slow down. When you are ready, we will move to the next chapter, where we will look at how culture, art, and story help us hold the mystery of consciousness. For now, rest in the thought that minds matter and that small acts of care make the world safer and kinder for all who feel. Chapter 13: Culture, Story, and the Art of Feeling. Slow your breath, in and out. Let your body soften as you settle deeper into the night. In this chapter, we will sit with the ways people use story, art, music, and ritual to hold the mystery of awareness. These are the places where we name feelings, share them, and practice being human together. Art does not explain everything, but it opens room. It shows us how others feel and invites us to feel with them. It helps us learn how to notice, how to remember, and how to be kind. Think of a warm room where people tell old stories with a slow, patient voice. Each story carries a small truth about life, a warning, a comfort, a memory of someone loved. Stories act like maps for feelings. A child hears a story about a brave stranger who helps a neighbour, and later the child remembers that help when a friend needs them. A song about loss can make a person feel seen, even if their own loss is private and strange. Art reaches the part of us that fact cannot reach. It speaks in images, sounds, and rhythm. It shows feelings in motion. Music is one of the most direct doors to the heart. A simple melody can make the chest tighten, make tears come, or make feet move. There is no single way music does this. Sometimes a slow, low sound invites calm. Sometimes a bright, fast rhythm lifts mood. Many people find that songs act like a mirror. When the tune matches a feeling inside, it gives that feeling a name. Music helps us hold things too big to say. It makes private moments shared. A lullaby echoes through family lines and becomes part of how children learn to rest. Stories in books and films do a similar work. When you read about another person's life, you step briefly inside their mind. You learn their fears, small joys, and ways of seeing the world. This practice grows empathy, the ability to feel with others. Empathy is a skill we can train. The more we practice listening to other lives, the better we become at not assuming we know what someone else feels. Art trains that muscle gently. It is why stories matter in classrooms and in quiet rooms at home. Ritual and ceremony are ways communities hold feeling together. A ritual can be as small as a family meal where a simple prayer is said, or as large as a gathering that marks seasons and life changes. Rituals mark meaning. They make time feel thicker and life richer. They teach us how to move through grief and joy in a shared way. When someone we love dies, a ritual helps a community carry pain, not by hiding it, but by giving it form and a place. Rituals are practices that show how a shared inner life can be shaped and healed. Art also shapes memory. A painting can fix the light of a summer afternoon for many years. A photograph keeps a face in view when time pulls it away. Songs become keys to a past moment. Cultural memory, the stories a people repeat, builds a common life. When a community tells the same tale again and again, it teaches values, warns of past mistakes, and builds a sense of belonging. These shared memories are not only facts, they are feelings people carry together. There is a gentle power in telling your own story. When you tell a memory aloud, you shape it. You give it order and meaning. That shaping can heal old wounds. Talking to a friend about a past hurt, saying the words aloud helps the memory move from a raw, sharp place to a softer, older place. Writing works the same way. Some people keep small books where they collect the tiny bright things of life. Over months and years, those pages become a map of what mattered. This simple act is one way art becomes a form of care. Art also helps us learn what it is to be aware. Think of a scene in a movie where a character stands on a train platform and finally understands something about their life. You watch the face closely and feel the slow change inside the person. That watching trains you to notice similar small shifts in your own life. Art gives language to the small, quiet turns of heart and mind. Across cultures, creative practice often goes hand in hand with study of the inner life. In one culture, a community might hold long evenings of story and song to pass skill and care from older members to young ones. In another, the telling of a myth may be a way to teach how to treat land and animals. Art becomes the way practical knowledge and inner life meet. That meeting is especially important because words alone do not always carry the feeling we mean. A story that shows care, not just tells it, plants the habit more deeply. There is also a playful side to this work. Small, simple acts, drawing a picture, humming a tune while washing dishes, making a tiny altar of found objects, bring attention into the day. These are small acts of art that help you notice the present moment. The practice is not about making perfect art. It is about shaping attention with tenderness. When you draw a line carefully, your mind slows. When you hum while walking, your breath and steps gain rhythm. These tiny arts are like daily softening exercises for the mind. Now a short story that helps hold this chapter's heart. A village had a quiet man who made small clay cups. Each cup he made had a small unevenness, a thumbprint that showed it was touched by a human hand. People loved the cups. They said the cups carried a warmth that factory cups did not. One day a storm came and the villagers' cups broke. The potter gathered children and taught them how to press clay and shape a cup. In this slow work, the children learned patience and the joy of making something by hand. The cups became a way for the village to remember and to care for each other. The simple act of making together had changed how the people felt about everyday life. Art also teaches us how to live with mystery. Not all art is tidy. Some paintings leave blank spaces. Some poems stop mid-sound. These gaps invite you to lean in, to fill the space with your own feeling. That leaning is the same attitude we bring to the big question of awareness. Hold it gently, allow the unknown to be part of the beauty, and let silence be a kind of answer. There are practices you can try now that use art to shape attention. One is to make a 5-minute list of small things you noticed today that brought a small joy. A cup of coffee, a kind word, a patch of sunlight. Write them slowly and read the list quietly. Another is to pick a short piece of music you love. Close your eyes and listen once, paying only attention to one instrument. Notice how the piece changes when your attention narrows. These small practices teach the mind how to hold feeling with care. Finally, think of how story and art help keep us awake to what matters. They teach us to care for one another, to remember with warmth, and to hold mystery without fear. When we share a song, tell a story, or make a simple thing by hand, we practice the same skills that let us live a kinder life. Attention, patience, and empathy. When you are ready, rest in the soft knowledge that art is not a luxury. It is a tool for being awake. It trains the heart to notice small beauties, to sit with pain, and to share what we feel. Keep that image of the potter and the village with you as a small lamp for the night. Chapter 14. Language, Thought, and the Story of Self. Slow your breath, in and out. Let your body sink a little deeper, and your mind fold in like a book closing gently. Tonight we walk along the soft path where words and thought meet, where the sounds we make and the phrases we learn shape the way we see the world and the way we see ourselves. This is a quiet chapter about how language helps build the sense of I, how thoughts use words, and how small changes in wording can change how we feel. Begin with a simple picture. Imagine a small room with many windows. Each window has a label. One says work, another says family, another says fear. The labels are words we learned long ago. They help us name what we see. When we call something by its name, it becomes easier to notice and to speak about. Language gives shape to the blurry world. It draws lines in the air and helps us hold things steady. Language does more than name. It helps us tell stories about ourselves. When you say, "I am shy," that sentence is a small map of how you see yourself. Over time, these maps add up. If you keep saying, "I rarely try new things," your days may bend to match that phrase. If you tell a different story, "I am curious and learning," your days may shift differently. Words are tiny tools that shape the paths we walk. There are gentle ways this happens. A child hears a grandparent say, "You are brave," and begins to try things that feel hard. A teacher says, "You improved a lot," and the student feels encouraged to keep practicing. Words can be soft like a hand on the shoulder, or they can be heavy like a stone in a pocket. The careful use of language matters because it helps build the inner life of others. Thoughts often wear words like clothing. Sometimes feeling comes first, a warm glow or a small fear, and then a word arrives to describe it. Other times a word comes first and a feeling follows. Saying "I'm tired" can make the body relax a little, because the word tells the mind how to treat the moment. This two-way road between words and feeling is a gentle power. It means we can change mood in small ways by the sentences we say, quietly, to ourselves. Let me tell a soft story to show how small words can change the shape of life. A man called Samuel always thought of himself as unlucky. When small setbacks came, he would say, "That's just my luck." Over years, he noticed his life felt narrow and small. One day, a friend suggested he try a new phrase. That was a lesson. He started saying it every time something went wrong. The change did not fix everything, but Samuel slowly noticed he was more likely to try again. The new phrase opened a small door. This shows how language can shape habit and hope. Language also builds shared life. When a group has a word for a feeling, an old word that holds a family memory, that word carries meaning the way a map carries a route. A culture's words for gratitude, shame, or joy shape how people notice those states. In some languages, there are words that do not exist in others, small corners of feeling that are named and thus easier to hold. Learning words from other cultures can open new windows in your own room. There is a curious relationship between inner speech, the voice in your head, and the sense of self. Many people carry a steady inner voice that narrates their day. "I need to remember the meeting," it says. "I should call my friend," it reminds. This inner voice can be calm and helpful, or it can be harsh and tired. One helpful practice is to notice the voice and treat it kindly. When a critical thought rises, try answering it with a gentle phrase. "Thanks for checking in. I'll see to that later." This small change can loosen the tight hold of a harsh inner script. Language shapes memory too. When you tell what happened, you choose details and words that fit a story. The telling makes the memory more like a film you can replay. Changing the words you use about past events can change how they feel now. This is one reason telling a hard story in a safe place can help healing. Words reshape the edges of old pain. Now think of silence. Words are powerful, but silence has its own role. Pauses and quiet let feeling rest. We do not need to name everything. Sometimes noticing without naming is enough. When you sit with a friend who is sad and simply hold their hand, your silence can say more than words. Language and silence are partners in the same gentle dance. There are also creative uses of language that expand the mind. Poetry and metaphor make new links between things. A poet might say, "Her laughter is a summer river," and suddenly you see both laughter and river in a new light. Metaphor is a tool that helps the mind hold two scenes at once. It loosens rigid thinking and opens room for wonder. Small creative experiments with words can change how you think about your day. Language also matters in how we talk about consciousness itself. Using the right, simple words can make a heavy subject feel softer. Saying, "I'm having a thought," instead of "I am a thought," gives distance and freedom. The first phrase is gentle and clear. The second can trap the mind in a narrow identity. Little shifts like this help practice living with less tightness and more choice. Let us try a calm, small practice now. Close your eyes if that feels okay. Notice a small thought. Perhaps I should do more, or I'm tired. Say the thought softly in your head. Now add a gentle phrase in front like, "I notice that," or "that is a thought." So the line becomes, "I notice that I'm tired." Do that for 3 breaths. Notice how the feeling changes. Often, adding "I notice that" creates a small distance that lets the mind rest. This tiny act is a simple tool you can use many times. Language also shapes how we listen to others, asking small, open questions. How did that feel? Or, what was that like for you? Invites people to speak from their inner life. These questions are not tests, they are doors. They teach the person speaking that their feelings matter and that someone is ready to hold them. There are dangers too. Words can be used to hide truth or to make people small. When labels become weapons, you always or you never, they can trap both speaker and listener. Learning to use kinder, clearer language is a steady work. It asks us to slow down and choose phrases that help rather than harm. Finally, think of a language as a gentle tool that can be practiced like any skill. You can learn to pause before speaking, to choose phrases that open space, and to name feelings in ways that soothe. Small habits compound. A single new phrase repeated each day can shift how your mind moves. Before this chapter closes, hold a soft question in your hands like a warm pebble. What small phrase can I use to treat myself with kindness today? Try one now. May I be gentle with myself. Say it quietly 3 times. Let the words rest. Notice any small change. When you're ready, we will move forward to the next chapter, where we will explore how our bodies shape mind, how breath, movement, and sleep change what it feels like to be awake. For now, rest with the thought that words are small lamps. Choose them gently and let them light your way. Chapter 15. Body and Breath. How the body shapes the mind. Slow your breath, in and out. Let your hands rest lightly on your lap. In this chapter, we'll move down from thoughts and stories and look closely at the body, the soft house in which mind lives. We will notice how breath, posture, movement, and sleep shape what it feels like to be awake. These are simple things, but they hold great power over mood, clarity, and calm. Tonight we will learn gentle tools you can use right away to change how your inner world feels. Begin with breath, the quiet rhythm that links body and mind. Breath is always with you, even when you do not pay full attention. The way you breathe changes your heart rate, your blood flow, and your feelings. A fast, shallow breath tends to come with worry and hurry. A slow, deep breath helps your body relax and your mind quiet. This is not a trick. It is biology and a practice you can use like a small lamp when the room feels dim. Try this small breath practice now if it feels safe. Close your eyes softly. Breathe in slowly for 4 counts. Hold a soft moment at the top for 2 counts. Breathe out slowly for 6 counts. Repeat 3 times. Notice how your chest and belly move. Notice any small change in your mind. If thoughts come, let them come and go like leaves on a stream. This simple breath pattern calms the nervous system and helps you feel steadier. You can use it any time in the dark or in light, lying down or sitting. Posture is another quiet teacher. How you hold your body sends messages to your brain. A slouched posture can sometimes deepen sadness. A gentle, open posture, shoulders soft, chest relaxed, can help the mind feel more awake and confident. This does not mean you must always keep a perfect pose. It means that small shifts in how you sit or stand can make a small but real difference in how you feel. Movement also shapes mood. Walking slowly outside, stretching, or moving your arms in a few long circles can change heart rate and release small chemicals in the body that lift mood. You do not need heavy exercise to feel this. Even a short 5-minute walk, a few soft stretches by a window, or standing and rotating your neck gently can shift the inner weather. Movement reminds the body it is alive and connected. Rather than a chore, it can be a small gift to your mind. Touch has quiet power too. A warm shower, a soft blanket, or holding a cup of warm tea sends signals to the body that calm it down. When someone places a kind hand on your shoulder, it often lowers stress in measurable ways. Touch is a simple and ancient way we quiet the nervous system and restore balance. If you are alone, self-care touches, like rubbing your own hands together or pressing a palm to your chest, can create a similar small comfort. Sleep is a deep and steady pillar of a healthy mind. When you sleep well, memories settle, mood balances, and the mind clears clutter. When sleep is poor, the mind grows foggy, emotions feel sharp, and patience runs thin. Good sleep habits are small but powerful. A quiet hour before bed with dim lights, no bright screens close to bedtime, a cool and dark room, and a regular sleep schedule. If your sleep is broken, small changes can help. Try the same sleep time each night. Make a short ritual before bed like reading or gentle breathing, and keep the bedroom mostly for sleep and rest. There are also gentle body-based practices that help mood and attention. One is body scan. Lie down or sit comfortably. Slowly move your attention from your toes up to your head, noticing each part without trying to change anything. When you reach a place of tension, breathe softly into it and let it ease. This practice helps you notice where stress lives in the body and gives you a simple tool to let it soften. Another practice is grounding. If you feel anxious or scattered, place your feet on the floor and press them gently. Notice the contact between your feet and the ground. Feel the weight of your body and the solidity beneath you. Name slowly 3 things you can see, 2 sounds you can hear, and 1 thing you can feel on your skin. This small grounding exercise brings your attention back to the present and calms a worried mind. Nutrition plays a quiet role as well. Simple meals with whole foods, regular meal times, and gentle hydration help keep the body steady. Heavy sugar, skipped meals, or little water can make the brain foggy and mood shaky. This is not about strict rules, it is about small kindnesses. A warm bowl of soup, a cup of herbal tea, a modest snack when you need it. These small acts care for the body, and in turn, care for the mind. Breath and movement also change how we think. When breathing is calm and the body is comfortable, the mind can hold questions without panic. Ideas come more slowly and clearly. When the body is tense, thought narrows and repeats the same worried loops. This is why breath can be a bridge. Use it to widen thinking and soften reaction. There is also the gentle power of rhythm. Slow, steady rhythms, rocking, swaying, soft humming, soothe. That is why babies calm when rocked, and why some people find a slow walk or a gentle song fixes the edges of stress. Rhythm creates a sense of order that the nervous system likes. You can hum a small tune and feel your shoulders drop. You can tap your foot slowly and feel the breath lengthen. These small rhythms are tools for steadying attention and mood. One more small practice, the pause. When you feel a tight emotion rising, try a 3-count pause before you speak or act. Breathe in, hold one soft moment, then breathe out. See what happens to the feeling. Often it moves a bit. You choose more gently. The pause is a small habit that can change many daily moments. As this chapter closes, hold a gentle promise to your body. It does not need perfection. A small promise is enough. To give it breath when the mind rushes, to move a little each day, to protect sleep, and to offer a kind touch. These small pledges are not grand vows. They are tiny acts of care that, over time, build a softer inner life. Before we let this chapter rest, try a final short practice. Sit or lie comfortably. Breathe in for 4 counts, out for 6. As you breathe out, imagine tension leaving the body like a thin mist. Repeat 5 times. Notice how your hands, jaw, or shoulders feel softer. Carry that softness into the next moments.